Jumping straight ahead here. Don't even get a look at the draft because it's already underway as Puppypaw spawns in the color red as the Byzantines on coastal cliffs, actually, up against DeMu's purple Chinese, which is definitely his favorite color. And picking Byzantines on this map is always a brave choice. I mean, Byzantines is just all around such a solid civilization on most maps, and especially slightly more condensed ones like this, where they can limit the amount of space where they are vulnerable. But the stone is the issue. Puppypaw, however, does manage to find it pretty quickly, and I mean, this is about as good as it gets, really. Like it's behind, it's quite close compared to how it can spawn sometimes, and with the spawn, he can just afford to. I mean, with that forward wood line, there's a very easy wall on the south side, which will secure his gold as well as the berries and the deer pack. And then he can put most of his focus towards that northern side where the further berries extend, as well as his stone is present. So we have seen this matchup today already, MSN, with beautiful execution, taking Wham completely by surprise in that series. But now we witness DeMu looking to potentially do the same and subvert a slightly unfavorable matchup.
Yeah, we just saw the blueprint against the other Canadian brother. It'll be interesting to see whether DeMu follows suit with MSN strategy or not. I would be surprised to see an identical strategy from DeMu, be quite different player to MSN. That said, still very much expect to see that pro scouts out of them. It is interesting seeing the Byzantine pick. I mean, we've seen a lot of players try to not favor the civs that need stone early, whether that be 2TC or something else, because of the distance of which it spawns on this map. But others seeing it as being something that's actually, it's not that vulnerable. I just need to go get it, and then it's fine. I don't need to worry about it again. It's not a big deal. And we see that with Puppypaw here. Even on the Byzantine, where often they want to sit on it for a while to get those cisterns trickling in. He's not too fussed. He's got enough in. We've got 2 cisterns already going. And like you pointed out, not a bad spawn to be able to protect everything up. And we see already straight away the horseman coming out from Puppypaw exactly as Wham did in his game.
Of course, we're going to see quite a lot of parallels, I think, from Puppy's play compared to Wham's. Of course, them being not only brothers, but twins at the same time as well. And of course, very much committed practice partners as a result. It means that a lot of the strategies are shared. Now, I would say Puppypaw has a slightly more aggressive edge to him compared to Wham, at least in recent history. So there might be a case here, but DeMu, with the choice here to opt for the early aggression, which can be a great choice up against the Byzantines, gets severely punished for it due to the lack of the initial scouting there. Not seeing the stable commitment there from Puppypaw means that 2 archers just die for free, and that's the entire tempo gone.
You have talked about this a couple of times already today, Myriad, with the presumptions that players are taking in their choice of units or production buildings into units. And unfortunately, it looks like that's the case as well here. And unfortunately, it was the case that sending those archers across the map as well before able to see the horseman coming across. And I'm sure he'd give him a bit of a slap on the face. I can't believe I've done that. But in this case, now a bit behind, trying to then secure up his professional scouts behind it, as even though he can go into making horsemen, of course, that count is going to be a lot lower than Puppypaw, who's been making them since the start of Feudal Age. And we saw that exactly the same in Wham's game against MSN. Obviously, that one ended differently under different circumstances. But it does seem like just in that game, it does put DeMu on the back foot to start.
And it's very similar to the last game in that regard, right? We saw MSN starting off on the back foot there, but eventually punishing the greed that Wham went for very effectively. And we're going to see if DeMu is able to do the same, but it's a bit of a different state here because, you know, DeMu, as you mentioned, opted for the units initially as opposed to the pro scouts. So then that being shut down hurts even more than just a slight delay on your pro scouts, which is what MSN experienced that game. And again, taking some unfavorable traits here and being forced into a tricom position so early, and even now still making archers, even though really the main thing he sees is just horsemen. Puppypaw was playing this beautifully so far, and DeMu was kind of scrambling a little bit here, forced to commit to both scouts and units at the same time just to secure his initial deer pack.
Yeah, and the second dare pack is just past the first one, right? There's not really an option to go the other side of the map. He's got to find a way to break through the army that Byzantine has. And Puppypaw, I mean, he's got the first set of longbows coming across the map now. And unfortunately, I mean, Puppypaw was fighting the spearmen, sort of picking them out from the bunch and killing them with just the horsemen, which is not something that you want to see for DeMu. And now with the longbows coming across, and especially having such a low count of units for DeMu, it means those high damage longbows are going to be even more dangerous in these small skirmishes. And now it doesn't see, like, even if DeMu can mass as many spearmen as he wants, he's not now able to counter out the horsemen, because those longbows are there to deal with them, as we see them now still picking off those last of the spearmen coming out, and this is just looking pretty awful for DeMu.
Yeah, it's a pretty bad situation for DeMu indeed. I mean, as I mentioned before, being forced into spears here just by the presence of a few horsemen is what you so want to avoid as China, because just the knowledge that the longbows are going to come in soon any time, and I mean, this few units better against spears than longbows, and that's definitely a sting that DeMu now feels. Just Puppypaw able to control the tempo of the game in a matchup where normally Byzantines is forced on the defensive at this stage of the game, just speaks volumes to the sheer lead that he has now garnered himself. And looks like learning from the slight folly of his brother in the previous game, he's putting a bit more respect on the possible Chinese mass at this stage, continuing to produce horsemen, not yet macroing for that castle age, but he doesn't even need to add Limitane at this stage yet. There's just not as big of a horseman commitment here from DeMu. It's mainly archers to deal with the longbows, which is a good choice, but when there's already so many horsemen on the field, it's a big trouble. DeMu gets a couple of nice pickups on the longbows. Two of them have fallen, but does pay a heavy price for it in turn, losing a lot of the horsemen and some of the archers as well to Puppy's own horsemen. Puppy maybe overstaying his welcome just a little bit in this mid-map, because as we see, once those deer do come in underneath that TC, the food income just skyrockets for China, and they're able to pump virtually, well, it seems endlessly in theory, but of course, the end is when the deer runs out.
When you're playing against them, it feels like it's endless for sure. DeMu doing a great job, actually, yeah, picking off those few longbowmen, which were just caught in between the main army and the reinforcements behind them, just with 3 horsemen. So getting a lot of value out of those few units, and it's really what he has to do to try to claw this back. Now able to turn that around, keep the longbow count down, and go in with a hell of a lot of archers and a lot of units behind us to put some damage on the other side of the map while securing in those deer and making those scouts to do so. But the problem with making those scouts to do so and only having archers behind us is his army is now susceptible to getting caught and wrapped. And now we see obviously no spearmen here. These horsemen, they're tanking their other horsemen, but they're able to just keep going off and whacking away on these archers. He does clean them up now on the right-hand side. So good job from DeMu to hold on. The villagers getting pulled there to try to fight, presumably with Akratoi, but deciding better of it, although the archers are now shooting away at them. Horsemen on the left side just taking a lot of damage, probably unnecessarily. And a lot of them do go down, really reducing that count. But if DeMu can get some villager kills, got 3 in total across the entire skirmish, but is now having to run away, and now just a few archers running away from a bunch of horsemen. 10 longbows out there now, with I'm sure another batch about to be queued up, and 6 horsemen in queue for Puppypaw. Yeah, definitely learning from Wham's mistakes here and putting his foot down and looking to push back DeMu all the way into his base. And if DeMu's not careful, Puppypaw could actually catch on to these pro scouts before they're done.
Yeah, exactly. Even the secondary deer pack here from DeMu is not yet collected safely under that mirror. Who would have loved to be able to stay in that northern side, keep control over that berry patch, and then later take Puppypaw's own deer up there in the north side, but there's different plans on the cards. As you mentioned, Puppypaw just relentless with this commitment, not fearing fully engaging in the feudal age here up against China, and he can do that after that early game, right? The sheer advantage he got and the time he bought himself means that he is able to match these numbers in time and actually contest and even push DeMu back in this stage. And I mean, they're still there underneath that mill, but the army discrepancy is so severe at this stage, and I think Puppypaw did find the correct timing to do so. Now we see the macro switching over, plenty on gold, plenty on food, and the horseman production has ceased. Another longbow batch in queue at this point, and DeMu himself macroing to Carthage behind this, but just the wood situation is a bit dire there, just some unused resources. The macro floating is a bit too severe, and although he's going to get a decent timing comparable to Puppypaw, normally it's the Chinese that get the earlier castlage timing and then look to leverage it to deal plenty of damage, but I don't see that window being there this game.
Not today, no. And I think DeMu may be caught in two minds between what he wants to go for, whether he can maybe get that castlage or whether he needs to commit to continuing to make units, whether he needs that farm transition, yet surely would not want to be even trickling those in yet and without the Song dynasty. And then as a result, having a lot of resources in the bank across all three of those main resources, whereas Puppypaw made a very clean decision to pull back and age up to the castlage with that golden horn tower, which is going to come in safely, still managing as well actually to get some raids or some damage on the pro scouting with a couple of those horsemen splitting off. But now castlage is about to kick in. DeMu is going to be made well aware of it, but with the macro situation of DeMu, he's not in the greatest position to just go across the map and do any damage.
Good news for DeMu is if he doesn't want to go for a farm transition, he's more than capable at this point in time, but the Song dynasty is not there yet, and that seems to be a stretch considering he still needs to get castlage at this point. And yeah, I mean, with Puppypaw now finishing that golden horn tower, upgrades, veterancy coming in for the longbows, as well as the first batch, of course, from the golden horn tower will always be the longbows, because you cannot upgrade the veterancy before the units are in queue, and the cataphracts is going to be the nail in the coffin, no doubt, as soon as the number starts climbing. Undoubtedly, there's two stables by now just pumping those units, and especially with that retracted deer pack, Puppypaw had access to so much food for these horsemen. That is why we're able to see such a big investment into them while still getting a very respectable castle age timing. But we also saw plenty of olive groves going down behind this as well. And of course, the olive groves, not only is the food coming in hot here for Puppypaw, but the olive oil as well.
This cataphract longbow, the last thing you want to see, a composition we have seen many a time from Byzantine close out games very comfortably against any civs. But in the poor case of the Chinese here, there's not a lot going for them, even as DeMu does age up to castle age. Getting veteran horsemen is not quite what you're looking for in this situation. Is able to get some onto the back with the longbows, and culling the count there will be definitely a saving grace, Rob, if you can get that. But otherwise, the cataphracts are just untouchable almost with the units that DeMu has. The longbows are surviving decently long too. They do have their veterancy upgrade, and the horsemen from Puppypaw are not dying either, and then all of the army is falling away from DeMu, and with all of the economy behind things for Puppy, and unfortunately not so much the same for DeMu. This may just be a case of Puppy running into the base of DeMu, into DeMu GG.
In some cases, if you get a good enough castle timing and you have the access to food as China, you can reach a point where you just outmass the cataphracts with sheer knight numbers and overpower them. Difficult it is to do in an even game, but in this kind of a game, it's virtually impossible here for DeMu. But you see now the groves are almost in full swing there for Puppypaw, plenty of them around that winery, boosting them up and the income of oil even further. And more longbows in queue, more cataphracts, even putting plenty of respect here on DeMu's Lancer switch, and even adding some Nimitani behind this, even though they're not even needed, I would say, at this stage. Taking down the village. Now it's just about Puppy circling the base here like a shark, just looking to kick DeMu out of his game, who, I mean, DeMu does have a bit of a reputation for really hanging on in those games, which I think is a good habit, frankly. You always want to try your best and make your opponent fight for these wins, but this game is a very difficult one to recover.
Yeah, turning into the Lancers, like you say, if we could get the mass enough to overwhelm all of the units that Puppypaw has here, he will be able to beat it with lances, but there's just no opportunity for DeMu to get enough of a count to overtake this. He's doing a decent job here to be able to pick up some kills, and even with the long bows, just shooting unhindered there. They do eventually break through. The cataphract count is climbing far too high. DeMu's out of units entirely. GG is called, and game 1 goes to Puppypaw, doing what his brother Wham could not.
Exactly. I mean, once you lose that lead in the early game here as China, it just snowballs out of control so quickly. You have to be able to dictate the pace, the level of unit commitment from either side. You should be the one controlling that as China. So when you lose that position of power early on, it's just becomes so difficult to climb back up against a very steady, robust civilization like the Byzantines that just keeps getting better and better the longer the game goes. And that is true for China as well, but there's a sharp fall down when the food runs out, where they're very vulnerable for a good period of time, even in an even game, but never mind a game where they're behind, such as this one. So, as we mentioned, the Lancer count can sometimes overpower the cataphracts, but you need at least double the number of Lancers to cataphracts, which easier said than done.
For DeMu, it didn't really start off very well for him in the early feudal age, but he did a really, really fantastic job to bring that back and win a fight and be able to push in against Puppypaw as we jump into our next game. The one thing maybe saving grace for DeMu is that when Wham lost his first game, he went on to qualify. Puppypaw winning his first game, maybe that works in reverse. I guess we'll find out. But in this game, we've got DeMu spawning in the pink this time as the Abbasid dynasty in the bottom of our map. And in the northeast, we've got Puppypaw on the Mongols, a civ I know he loves, and I love watching him play. So I'm very excited to see what Puppypaw is going to bring us with this trademark civ.
Yes, Puppy, a very dangerous Mongol player indeed. Plays them exceptionally well, and it's a great map for Mongols as well nowadays. DeMu with the Abbasid pick, this used to be a very strong pick way back in the day here on 4X, one of the prime civilizations for this map. Now, of course, with the state Abbasid is in today, those days, they're almost hard to remember at this stage, but still, up against the Mongols, I mean, Mongols, they're not exactly a powerhouse civilization nowadays. They're a very situational pick that, they have some really good potent matchups into some of the best civs in the game. They can do great up against Japanese, up against Malians even sometimes, and even a civilization like Byzantines. Mongols, with their early pressure, can really put a stopper to these otherwise greedy snowballing civilizations. Abbasid, on the other hand, works quite a bit differently, and with their economic prowess, as well as the fact that they scale incredibly well later into the game, could work very well in DeMu's favor here, as he is a player that does prefer to go for that late game quite often. It's where he feels very, very comfortable. Puppypaw, on the other hand, I know actively dislikes it. He loves to play aggressive and loves to control the tempo and dictate the way the game goes and in what direction. And that's very much reflective of his pick here with the Mongols. But there's no barracks opening following up after the docks, as one might potentially expect, and it makes sense here. This is one of the good things about Abbasid in this situation, is there's not a big danger against spears for you. I mean, you have the cheaper docks first and foremost, just like the Ayubids do, half price. And then even if you opt to skip docks as Abbasid, and let's say on a normal map you would get tower rushed by the Mongols as well, you can just go militarying and drop a ram immediately and destroy the tower before Mongols even finishes aging up.
Definitely look to see Puppypaw play aggressive here, and I think it's a little bit interesting to see him not go for that Dark Age aggression that we see a lot of players who pick Mongols on these maps go for. And we do see DeMu going for that military wing. Now, this isn't necessarily the same type of military wing play that we saw out of MSN in our previous series. On a hybrid map, this could be more to shore up your position, as well as get some early pressure on your opponent's docks. The thing with Mongols is, of course, they early on in the game, that double production with the stone is such a huge bonus. It might fall off a little bit later, but early on it does allow you to get plenty of numbers out, as we see villager on villager crime, with DeMu doing actually a good job to push that villager away and stop the counter docking. Although now Puppypaw brings it back to commit. I'm not sure if that's villager is going to have success there. A lot of hits still going off the villager from DeMu, still following, which if it does, that Khan will eventually kill it for sure. This might just be a trade 1-for-1.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's going to be. And it has a danger with going up with a forward dock here. Is if you do get spotted, the scout and the villager can stop the dock in time here for DeMu, right? The villager does go down, but then again, the Khan, of course, is just so annoying with those arrows, especially once the feudal age is reached, because the damage then goes up on the Khan. So chances are you will lose that villager that you used to kill the opponent's villager, and that's exactly the case here. Now DeMu going for his own counter dock play, a very good choice here with the Abbasid due to the cheap cost, and I think this villager pull might be a little late. Damage has been dealt to the villager, however, so there's a chance it's there in time. No, he knows it'll be too slow, so he just drops a dock right next to it instead, and this is really nice for the Mongols here, because obviously you can get arrow slits, the arrow slits and placement on the dock very easily with that passive stone, and that means that whatever ship comes out of the dock for DeMu will immediately start taking fire.
Going for a ship straight away, at least to try to secure that pond. But like you say, Mongol do sort of have that advantage with not having to gather that stone and having the naval arrow slits come out right away. It's always nice when it doesn't feel like you're having to invest too much of it or into it. At this stage, we've got all the docks kind of, or all the ponds having some action going on, except for the one to the left of Demu's base. And I love to see this from Puppypaw, looking to just play the game as chaotic as he can, with docking everywhere and then getting the Keshiks onto the field to go and cause some havoc themselves. DeMu himself, of course, with that military wing, is trying to get those units out and about, but unfortunately, none of them are at home for these Keshiks coming in. That's going to be one easy villager to start with, and probably picking up a second one, maybe even a third if they can click onto the right villager. And a lot of damage on that last one at least. So very nice from Puppypaw to pick off a little bit of damage there onto the gold, and at least for now, denying it entirely.
Yes, an early lead here crept up by Puppypaw, keeping tabs on DeMu's movements and economy. Pushing him off of gold is a big advantage here. I mean, Abbasid has always struggled with a slow age up, and that's something DeMu has to be really careful of, right? Especially when there's fishing involved. With such big food income on both sides, it's very easy to get taken by surprise by castle age timing, especially as the Abbasids here, and that's a very easy way for you to die very quickly. You can't speed up your age up, and that can be a big problem in such a tempo-orientated meta as we see today in Age of Empires 4. And heavily on gold, DeMu is now. Makes complete sense. He knows what's coming, and he probably suspects that Puppypaw might be looking for a castle age behind this, which kind of looks like he is, but now there's an archer switch coming up as well as a blacksmith, so there's likely going to be a heavier feudal commitment here than originally anticipated.
Looks like it with that many on gold and the continued ticking or production, I should say, of the Keshiks. 2 in queue already at the moment and not looking to stop there. Now the archers behind it as well, we see just a pure, basically, knight archer comp in the feudal age. It's really not that much different from real knights in this situation. Puppypaw does get a dock there on that far left pond to give it some action as well. Nothing there going on the bottom one, but other than that, we are seeing them all be at least some point contested. We do see that food eco really skyrocketing for Puppy. So as soon as we see him stop making those Keshiks, we can probably look to see a castle age timing come in nice and quickly. And like you said, unlike Abbasid, Mongol can look to go up to castle as fast as they like with more villagers building that up. And it seems at this point, DeMu really wanting or committing to trying to get this dock down and getting a first military ship out to deal with that arrow ship. But otherwise, it might look like it is going to go down. Keshik's once again coming in on this gold. There's no tower, no units sitting there. He's able to push it out every single time. And these Keshiks are getting so much work done.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, Puppypaw sees Demu's army, right? He knows he was so focused on that duck. The camel archers were there as well, the ones that provided AoE debuff against this Keshik. So naturally, that opens up a doorway towards that unprotected gold. And now the fight is being taken by Demu up against these Keshiks, but outside of the camel archers, there's no spears here. There's no spears at all on the field for Demu. There's no barracks even, I don't believe. So this is a big problem here for him, because as a result of this, these Keshiks are left kind of unchecked. And although they are potentially the weakest pseudo-knights in the game, they are still more than enough to deal with something like horsemen and even camel archers in low numbers.
Especially when Keshiks get that extra bit of time in these extended fights, that healing comes in even more clutch than it otherwise would. And Spearmen, if they can kill them quickly, their healing may as well not exist. But when they get a bunch of attacks, swings in those fights, the healing really does come up. And especially if they can also fight onto those docks and get plenty of hits away, it actually does come in quite clutch for the Mongols and makes those Keshiks feel more like knights than they otherwise would. We see that as Demu come back out to that gold, really adamant to get in as much as he can, even if he's losing a lot of villages each time he does. Pathing really not doing him any favors as well. Probably going to lose another 2. No, just the 1. That one gets safely, even though seeing his life flash before his eyes. But is able to get enough gold and look to go to the Castle Age, but at quite a significant sacrifice. And we see Puppypaw is macroed up as well. 25 villages on gold. He is going to be joining him as well. And with that faster age up, we're probably going to expect Puppypaw to even reach it first.
Yeah, exactly right. The damage is just adding up very quickly here in Puppypaw's favor. The economic count is spiraling out of control. Over 10 now in favor for Puppypaw. More villagers as well as more fishing ships at this stage, and all the idle time on the gold. We saw Demu just a little bit slow to pull away, distracted at that point in time on the gold. Costs him heavily, and the step redoubt is now on the way. Culturing on the way as well here for Demu. He does manage to find that age up in decent timing here, but the tempo loss is big. I mean, there's still, even now, that dock is producing in the north side here from Demu. A lot of resources have gone on the wayside here, because there's just not significant damage you can find there against the Mongol dock placed right next to it. Just the arrow slits just do so much damage. You're never going to be able to fight effectively there. So the investment is very hard for it to pay off. So the boot camp hasn't been taken by Demu either in that feudal age, but too distracted to do so. And Puppypaw, with the step redoubt now finished, I mean, that's the economic play, right? There's no Kurutai here, so a natural follow-up for this from Puppypaw could potentially be an Imperial Age.
All the options are really in Puppypaw's hand at this stage. He's got the tempo and got the earlier age up. The step redoubt just makes that gold come in so fast. And if he is able to get that Imperial Age with the Karganet Palace, it really just puts Demu on a timer to make something happen before all of those units can overwhelm him. But before he's got to worry about that, the Culture Wing is only just now coming in. It really does feel so long for poor old Abbasid to age up from when they hit the button. But it is now in. I think we'll probably see Demu notice his upgrades, but with Preservation of Knowledge, of course, coming in first, and hopefully the likes of Boot Camp and others coming in next. Those gold villagers, we've seen this movie before, having to pull off of gold again, but he does at least, Demu, see that early enough and gets them all to safety before any go down, but it does push him off gold at a time where he's really wanting to spend a lot of it in that early Castle Age, and his poison of choice is Lancers.
Lancers will be a good choice, yeah. I mean, Demu must understand the dynamics of the way Mongols play on a map like Four Lakes. He must understand that this is just a distraction. These Keshiks are just to keep him busy. Already we see the Springald emplacements coming in, just a couple of crossbows in anticipation of what is likely Lancers here from Demu, and it's a good guess indeed in this case. The food is there, only the gold, 100 out now for Puppypaw. It's gonna be the Karganet Palace immediately being placed down very soon here. The Springald emplacements are there. We saw 2 of them. There might be 3, maybe one that we missed, I'm not sure. And potential additional outposts as well, maybe even to get a bombard emplacement. But you can see you know, this can be very dangerous for the Mongols, even on this map sometimes, if the game has been even and the opponent, instead of going for the Imperial Age, they just continuously pump all that res into units. But with the lead that Puppypaw has built up, he's able to just get this Cargonet virtually uncontested.
Then we come across the map seeing that, okay, Puppypaw has pulled back. What can I at least see, if not commit damage to? But we can see the armies now. It's still, even with the age disadvantage and being nowhere near Imperial Age himself, he's unable, DeMu is, to fight Puppypaw's army. And now he sees the age up come in as his army is running away from his opponents. It's not great to know that 3,600 resources have gone into something that you don't have, and you're still having to run away from his army. Now DeMu running his army back all the way to his base, not able to find any damage elsewhere either. It's a pretty awful position to be in. And I think in this case, it's a matter of what Puppypaw is going to get out of his Cargonet to start going across the map.
And it's going to be the Nest of Bees as the first unit on the casino roll there from the Cargonet. And these aren't just any Nest of Bees. Any unit that comes out of that Cargonet Palace has every single upgrade equipped onto it, including the civilization-specific unique upgrade. So this Nest of Bees has the additional barrels. It does huge damage if it comes into range of any backline. And like you mentioned, normally you'd be the one in DeMu's position now wanting to siege Puppypaw and dealing damage. DeMu has no window of this whatsoever. I mean, Puppypaw goes Castle Age with he went Imperial Age with a bigger, scarier army than DeMu, so that just speaks volumes to that's how behind DeMu is at this very moment. And honestly, I'm kind of surprised he's still in the game. But these games matter, every single one, right? So you want to keep fighting. I don't blame him at all. I'd probably do the exact same, but the writing is on the wall there. It's a monumental task that DeMu now has to overcome this deficit.
The only saving grace I feel for DeMu is maybe he feels that eco is still somewhat similar. I mean, they've split the ponds 2 for 2. Fishing is basically identical at this point. And so with all of that food and still being on gold himself, there's still a chance that he can make something happen with the eco that he does have. For us looking in, it really doesn't feel like it. But for DeMu, he's still now committing to units rather than looking to sneak in and age up. So we might see DeMu look to just do one last hurrah, take on Puppypaw's army before it looks like it's getting too much out of control. Interesting to see actually that shaman or imam running across the map. There's still relics on the map, as one of our players is already in Imperial Age, excuse me.
Yeah, Puppypaw opted to completely forsake the relics in favor of the earlier timing, which is always a choice one has to make, right? Do you just keep fighting a little bit in the castle age until you get the relics and then go for imp, or do you try to shave off maybe a minute or so and get it even earlier? And I mean, with the lead that Puppypaw had, it just makes perfect sense to ignore the relics. It's not like they're gonna make any real difference. I mean, the relics that DeMu has collected so far, like, I'm not even sure he's had them long enough to even pay for the monastery and the imams that have come out to collect them at this point. It's going to be a while before that comes in just yet. And now Puppypaw is knocking on the doors. And even that one Nest of Bees is just something that's going to be so hard for DeMu to try to take out even, and it's going to do so much damage. And on top of it, of course, all these Keshiks, as well as these upgraded free units from the Cargonet Palace. DeMu comes in for the last hurrah. A massive flank coming in. It's about as good of an engagement as you can possibly hope for. He finds the connection onto the Nest of Bees, but there's too many units looking to surround and protect it, and as a result, it does not go down. And the backline from DeMu is melting. It's a good split, but anything Nest of Bee touches will die. At the same time, the backline units from Puppy are clearing all of the lances here from DeMu. There's none left. He had 20 and it's now down to 0 with only 2 more in count. The warrior monks are joining as well to provide the buff, although they're too far away from the army to provide buff. Some of them do get the inspiration. Khan Hunter as well, providing additional range to all of these range units and the elite palace guards as well to tank the front line here. Although crossbows do counter men-at-arms and the palace guards have 1 less armor, with this type of a deficit, it's too much and GG is cold.
DeMu doing a great job there just to try to find the best fight that he could. And I think he did. The surround across, almost killing the Nesta Bees early, and then the Lancers coming in from the top to try to make it the best fight he could. But the tech disadvantage, the numbers disadvantage, the eco disadvantage, it was just too much for DeMu to overwhelm or to overtake at that stage of the game. And unfortunately, that does mean it is 2-0 to Puppypaw over DeMu at this stage. But we are there ready to go straight in to game number 3. We see Macedonians versus Jushi. DeMu on Macedonians, hands down, one of the best civs we're seeing at the moment. Seen it either banned or sniped away each time. I have not seen it played today. So at least we're going to get that treat here. But DeMu is on match point. He has to get this game back today.
And Macedonians on Frisian, it's one of their best maps, I'm tempted to say. Although they have no dock bonuses whatsoever, so you might think it doesn't make much sense to play them here. At the end of the day, it's the food. The food that you get on this map allows you to pump out those superior military numbers with one of the best armies in the game here for the Macedonians. So if ever DeMu can begin to mount a comeback, it is going to be here, and it is going to be with the Macedonians in a very favorable matchup up against the Jushi's legacy here from Puppypaw, who opted to ban out Aura the Dragon instead, allowing DeMu to play Macedonians. And this is actually, I think, a very smart choice when you're this ahead in the draft, and it shows a great amount of comfort in the state that you're in, because, yeah, Puppypaw could look to make it even easier for himself in this game and just ban out the Macedonians and play up against OTD, and then you have, a somewhat slightly rare and unusual matchup that isn't really, people wouldn't be certain exactly who's favored there. But if you just allow your opponent to play the better civ here, even if they win, they do not have this civ to use later on in the draft, and you just traded one of your weaker civilizations for it. So Puppypaw, again, wants showing extreme comfort in his position in this series, and almost giving DeMu a bit of a lifeline, knowing that it's potentially in vain for him, at least believing so.
Maybe a bit of a bluff too, not thinking that, or maybe thinking DeMu wouldn't think that he would then ban out Order the Dragon rather than Macedonian. But I think you're on the money there. A lot of confidence coming from Puppypaw. He knows he's obviously well set up in this series to be able to take it, whether that's in 3 games, 4 or 5. I'm sure he's confident that the long game is the one that he's able to play, as long as whatever's going to give him the greatest chance at winning. And we see this quite a lot on Frisian Marshes, the early dock, and then whether somebody decides to go for the follow-up barracks or not. And we see that with Puppypaw, the Spearman already coming across the map, and this poor villager still making the Varangian stronghold, but it will get it up. But that does cost a lot more money than the barracks does as well. But we'll be able to make those. I'm not going to even try to pronounce it, mate. But make those Macedonian spearmen. And now we see that spearman running past and going all the way to the top of the map, seeing, I assume, just a scout. No, the villager is up there looking to make another dock. And if Puppypaw can get this, that would be a huge initial lead to take at this early stage.
Yeah, and this is the painful thing here for Macedonians, is they are great when they have access to this food, but this is where they struggle when it comes to Dark Age. They, in theory, have better spearmen than most civilizations. They do cost an additional 10 food, but 10 less wood. And of course, they gain additional attack speed stacking with however many there are together. But the issue is the cost of that stronghold, just like you mentioned. The higher cost, 200 compared to 150, means that the spearmen are just later, and he's stuck on the defensive now. Demon's taking good trades, of course, having that home advantage, but behind this, Puppypaw is ahead in fishing ships. Of course, his economy is scaling just a little bit better, courtesy of the Imperial official behind this as well. So it's really a bit of a tricky position for DeMu. Oftentimes we see the Macedonians not even opt for a dock opening against potential Dark Age specifically because of this, and go for a fast age up instead. But DeMu being brave this time around and going for it, but has to be careful about extending too far here with the, we're coached on this quite a bit. I think it's Algermathar, something like that.
Oh, that gives me zero confidence at all to pronounce it. But we see DeMu making them. And then, of course, looking to challenge against Puppypaw's Spearman. And the thing is, with Mass, the Spearman attack speed bonus does give them a benefit. They are worth that extra cost when you have them. But in these low numbers, the attack speed may as well not exist at all. And these really are way lower numbers than what Puppypaw has. And now Puppypaw is ticking up to feudal age behind this, whereas DeMu is only just now gone onto gold and is going to be behind on the age up as well. The meditation garden's coming out. Puppypaw has got, honestly, he's got no rush at all, and now he's firing away at fishing ships and the dock, and there's nothing DeMu can do with these spearmen now to contest. And at this point, he's still making more, but there's no way he's able to catch up to the count that Puppypaw has. But I think for DeMu's case, if he feels that this dock goes down and he loses military, he loses the fishing and the eco, and he's going to lose the feudal age up timing, there's really nothing then going for Macedonian at all. And if he's looking like, oh, maybe I can get those Radari in castle age, there's no chance with this type of start that he can be thinking about that just yet. But I'm not too sure for DeMu what he can possibly do to stabilize this position.
No, it's pretty severe, right? The sheer, like this type of being behind in the age up like this is so big, whilst at the same time he still can't even match these spearman numbers, all because of that supervision from Jushi, because of the more expensive stronghold here for DeMu, and also the extra drain on food for these Germathar. I mean, sure, you save 10 wood, but that's not what you're struggling with in the Dark Age at this stage when playing an extended Dark Age like this. It's the food that's the problem. You have to keep producing villages behind this and somehow match the spearman numbers at the same time. And it's easier said than done. There's a couple of torches there coming out as they peel off the dock onto the Germathar here from DeMu, who again just can't find the numbers to bring together. And now with the age up through, these spearmen from Puppypaw are going to get the hardened upgrade, but it's not on the way just yet. He's just lacking the food for it slightly. It does cost 25 wood. Now it comes in, and he's going to be able to upgrade them while still winning, even though he doesn't have the upgrade yet. The dock is still under siege here. DeMu can't even get enough food together here to start considering an age up. He's getting quite close now, 22 on food at this stage, but he's still so far out from the age up. He hasn't even begun yet.
No, poor DeMu. He actually almost had the money ages ago, but then needed to reinvest into the Atgemata. That's my best. I mean, I'm not going to try again. But still unable to fight those spearmen. And now the spearmen being upgraded to veterans, plus the Chukanu now coming across the map. He does also eventually lose that dock. 9 minutes into the game with a military deficit and no fishing to speak of, is looking to go up with a hippodrome, which is going to make cavalry units into a huge mass of spearmen. It really, really feels awful for DeMu, and I feel from especially after those last couple games to come into this one feeling like he's got a chance with a great civ, but then just having things go so wrong for him so early on. It would be very, very tilting, of course, but unfortunately for DeMu, he's not going to have another chance to turn it around. He has to turn it around in this game, and he's throwing everything he can against the wall to try to make that happen. He's got all of these Atgemata now, which have the increased attack speed, but with the veterancy deficit, there's just no chance they can take a straight-up fight, and it's just going to be slowly tripping away. These spearmen are finally going to get that down. And then when the Chukanu show up from across the map, there's just absolutely nothing these spearmen can do.
No, it would add insult to injury. When you invest this heavily into the Dark Age, you hope to at least save your initial docks here because of the investment that you made. But DeMu wasn't even able to do that, unfortunately, all because just of the sheer disadvantage his civilization is in this type of a Dark Age commitment. And that really is the worst situation you can be in when you intentionally sort of, set yourself behind to try to save the greed of your play, and you aren't able to do it. Then you just fall even further behind than you were before, and that's exactly what we're witnessing at this stage. A second dock has now fallen for DeMu. Puppypaw is at this point threatening the northern third dock as well. The Zuganu now finding the Atgermathar behind this, we're looking to cut off and peel some of the reinforcements, and this is kind of the best thing DeMu can try to do. It's a good choice. It's what he has to do really in this position, to try to sort of start to salvage some of these military numbers in his favor, but it's just too much. Now we're moving into the Varangians, which, yeah, I mean, if you have 20 plus of them and you have the additional +2 damage, +2 armor with that silver, it's gonna be great, but that is such a distant wish here for Demo with these Zuganu. Puppypaw just relentless with his aggression, and the timing is just too strong. There's just so many Zuganu, and there's no real answer for them whatsoever. Demu doesn't even have the food to produce horsemen. Just a bit of kiting will mean that most of Demu's frontline here will melt so quickly to the Zuganu, even though the Steeled Arrow is not even in yet. Just the lack of Steeled Arrow means that this frontline is surviving longer than they even should, but still, they are dying so quickly.
We're so used to seeing the Hippodrome be a tempo setter for Macedonian, getting out that champion scout and then that champion horseman. In this case, I'm not even sure if we're going to see that poor champion horseman come out. It's behind that and the regular horseman not being able to be produced. It's really just villages at this point. Now going for the Bokma there, the archers behind as well to try to do something to turn this around. But I mean, I can see Demu try to hold on for all his life in this game. It is match point, but there really is next to nothing that I can see as a way out of this hole for Demu. The Varangian guards, maybe previous patches when they're a little bit tougher, and like you said, if you can get that +2 armor, then it doesn't really matter what feudal army Puppypaw has, but you can scratch feudal out of that as an adjective. Mount Lu Academy coming up. 9 villages building it, and I can't see Demu holding on too much longer once he sees this come in.
Yeah, with the Mount Lu confirmation, once the air notification comes in for Demu, I'd be very surprised to see him stick around, considering already how behind he is. A bit similar to the Mongol game, but I'd say he's probably even further behind in this game than in that game. At this point, Puppy's even starting to dock Demu's side in the north there. Just to add insult to injury at this point, but it's just so much here for Puppypaw, and yeah, he knows there's just absolutely no possible way to recover in this position. GG is called, and Puppypaw, in a domineering fashion, takes the series 3-0.
Incredibly strong from Puppypaw. I know Demu, I think he'll be kicking himself a little bit for some of those games, for some of those mistakes that he made or didn't hold himself to quite the standard of his play, which we're so used to seeing from him. But also credit to Puppypaw for bringing through his best play and making Demu make those mistakes and closing it out 3-0 in pretty dominating fashion. It doesn't mean that Demu is out of it. I made that mistake before, but it's simply not true. Demu still has a chance in the lower bracket tomorrow, where he will go up against our other loser in the semifinals, or second place in the semifinals, which was MSN. And we'll have the battle of the brothers in the upper bracket, the Canadian twins battling it out, Puppypaw and Wham going head to head in a best of 7. That is worth tuning in for by itself.
Absolutely. So it is going to be Demu and MSN tomorrow as the series, as we mentioned. That will then be followed up by Puppypaw and Wham for the winners bracket. They will then face the winner of Demu against MSN, and the winner of that match will then qualify. And of course, the winner of Puppypaw Wham will also qualify, and those will be the last 2 places filled out for the Homestead Cup in Serbia later this year. But that will be it from us for today, and tomorrow is when the action resumes. Ben, it's been a pleasure casting with you. You did fantastic.
Thank you very much, mate. Yeah, it was an absolute pleasure. First time casting with yourself, and it was an absolute blast to share the mic with you. Thank you so much. Big shout out to Whammin, caster turned producer, observer, everything, a woman of many talents, and of course to Arcane Tommy for the admin behind the scenes. Much appreciated. And of course to all of you watching and in Twitch chat, thank you so much for tuning in. Tomorrow is going to be so exciting seeing 2 players qualify for those last 2 spots at the Homestead Cup in Serbia in May. I can't wait. But for now, we stop. We all go to sleep, relax, rest, and come back for some amazing games tomorrow. Thank you all so much for watching. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you live tomorrow.